Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Faith Abroad. As you all know, the idea of Faith Abroad is to, as much as possible, talk to immigrant Christians and Adventists who have a story actually to tell and who are willing to encourage other persons with their stories. A lot of us immigrants here in Germany, in Europe, have gone through a lot. I am very glad, and it is my honor to be joined by my own very brother, Henry Zuchukwuwogu. Thank you, my brother, and you're welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, it's a privilege. You have many things going on in your life. You just had a graduation, a master's graduation, and you just told me that your baby's also started walking, and you're also running several projects. How do you manage, my brother?
Well, how do I put it? We just wake up to chase the dream. That's where I'll put it, because if you're sleeping on the dream, you wouldn't like the results. The motivation I have is that you wake up every morning, you draw strength from God, you
Mm,
pray, and once you pray and tell God, lead me today, so I just juggle these whole things, and hoping for the best in life, of course.
mm,
Now, responsibilities are so much on the shoulder, and you get
yeah.
to, do so many things at the same time. So basically, I just say, I just do them.
Great. My brother, I think, a great testimony. You are a motivation to a couple of persons. But before we even go into your story, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. So, where you're originally from and what life has been like before the war in Ukraine. Just tell us a little bit.
Okay, yeah, my name is Wogizuchukwu Henry, originally from Nigeria. From the name, you should know that I'm Igbo by now. Yet I am the first son, or the only son of my mom. My mom died when I was barely 14, back in 1998, yes. And I was raised by my uncle, my mom immediate younger brother, and who is a pastor. So for me, that's where my life started, and it's been a journey of God and me. So because when I look around and see I don't have a mom,
Mm,
and I'm the only son as well,
mm,
and of course, and being raised by an uncle, so life was a mix of feelings of, you're not with your parents, your
mm,
your uncle, and your expectations are not met with the realities of,
yeah.
of life. So, but then that is it, and I accepted it. Then I continue. I had my bachelor's in Nigeria, after which I tried a couple of things, trying to see if Nigeria will work. But then it wasn't so easy until I decided to go do masters in Ukraine.
Mm,
Little did I know that another thing was going to, that difficulties was going to meet me there. So I was thinking I was running away from Nigeria from a lot of
yeah.
difficulties, but I got to Ukraine barely 8 months into my program, and the war started.
Wow.
And that is also a different thing altogether. I mean, it's
Yes.
a different story altogether now. So, but
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's yes, being a person of strong will, you know,
Mm-hmm.
believing in strongly in God. I believe
Mm,
in God will guide my paths and will lead me onto all desires, onto all things through His righteousness. So
mm.
that has
Man,
been me.
man, thank you for sharing that, and that was very, very something. I want to go back a bit to your childhood.
Mhm.
Your mom died, and then you're left without parents, and your uncle had to start taking care of you. That must have been very, very difficult for you. How did you cope and manage to still keep believing in God?
Okay, yeah. My grandparents are strong, very strong Adventists.
Mm-hmm.
Yet my grandmom initially, and my grandfather, who were strong Adventists, and so they set the pace. Let me put it this way, by laying the foundation of who I should be and what I should be in life.
Mm,
And yet, my granddad did early childhood education at University of Ife those days. So
yeah.
So he had this ability to train kids, and he tells me, if you want to train your children, you finish training at moment they are 7, you're done with everything you should tell them and however they want to live their life. So I
Mm,
think he set that pace by instilling in me it's the principles, the core principles that will guide me throughout my life.
mm,
So when my mom died and my uncle took I was actually not with my mom before my mom died. My uncle has taken me actually before my mom died. So
yeah.
now passing on that principle, because my uncle also studied as a theologian, and the same thing from home followed. And so I was just lucky to have also had that family who were rooted in Christian
Mm.
principles and who had the opportunity to guide me. So I just say I'm lucky to have.
Would you say lucky or blessed? Because you had these wonderful people around you. So the basic maternal care was no longer there, but you had this Christian trainings, say from grandfather, grandmother, uncle. You had people around you, so that must have been a blessing, and it also tells attests to how you talk about your faith. How you talk about being strong in God and not really like saying, "Well, this happened to me, and all these things that have happened to me, I should just stop believing in God." Right? It's a blessing.
Yeah, I will agree with that. That's a blessing to
Mm,
have people who are ready to train you in the ways of the Lord. Not
mm.
everybody has that opportunity. So I will consider it a blessing. Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a blessing, it's a privilege because imagine if you were an orphan and then you had to start going to someone who was not grounded in the faith, and what would that turn out, what would it turn you out to be. I just wanted to come back to what you had mentioned, that's coming to Ukraine. So you came to Ukraine, or you went to Ukraine, running away from Nigeria, and you were in essence looking for an escape, or how many people would call it and say, I came to Europe, or I went to Ukraine, or I went to Asia for greener pasture, right?
Mhm.
And there you met the pasture, perhaps was green a little bit, but it became brown because it started burning. Can you just take us back to that moment when you realized you had to leave Ukraine?
Okay. It all started sometime in January 2022. There was a
Mm,
rumor around January 26th or thereabouts, if I remember very vividly. There was a rumor that Russia is going to strike. We're having our normal life. Everything was good. I mean,
mm,
Ukraine was home, far away from home. If you understand Nigerian cultural values, some of them somehow we could relate with the Koreans, the way they tend to live their life. It not don't mean outside there. I mean, as a Christian and 7 Day Adventist, because that's the only community I know. And that's the
yeah,
only my circle is just basically that. So when I'm talking, I mean the perspective I'm using, it's the my circle and where I fully involved in. So but then that rumor came and 26, oh, we're expecting it's going to happen. And some people say, oh, nothing's going to happen because they had some experience back in 2014 when there was this war, but the war wasn't so serious then in 2014, Lugansk and some other places. So
mm,
we kept on going. Then on again, February came. I think it was February, if I'm not mistaken, February 16 or thereabouts.
mm,
Then announcement was made again, public announcement from U.S. intelligence that yes, there was going to be strike from the from Russia. Russia was going to strike, but then again, some people felt like no, it's not going to happen. These things are not going to happen. But what can we do? We have no idea what was going on. We don't
yeah,
know. We're just living with double mind. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
mm,
There was no any preparation as regards to where to go, what to do next. Of course, I've never experienced war before. So I was just left with, okay, let's just keep waiting and see what happens. Then with a strong conviction from friends who said, oh, I was here in 2014, nothing happened. Some people ran away, but at the end of the day, nothing happened. So we're having little confidence that everything was going to be cool. Nothing's going to happen until I had the first sound close to my house. I lived in Kiev.
Wow.
Yes, I had it while we were sleeping very early in the morning. You know, that sound came and it was like this thing is real. And then we're now running helter skelter. Funny enough, there was no Uber, there was nowhere to book Uber. The road were filled up. All the vehicles on in Kiev came out at the same time because everybody was running at the same time. What do we now?
Just before you even start going to the running, wait, what were you feeling that morning when you had? Was it a bomb blast? Was it a blast? What? So what were you feeling that morning? Like as per a Niger boy, someone who knows. What were you feeling that morning? And you not only that you are even in a new country. What were
Yes.
you feeling?
Well, to be honest, the level of confusion at that time, you don't even know what to think. But the point
Mm.
is, the only thing that comes to mind is how do you escape this problem? Because it was a big problem. To be honest, I stepped out and I went close to the major road and I saw the military parading with they were moving in. And I stood there and I took camera and I was videoing the military moving in into the cities. And it was like, what do we do? We can't do anything. But we started making all calls, like, where are you? What do we do? It was a bit of chaos with, confusion. But then somehow, I was lucky again. Let me put it this way. I had one friend who was left, who was around then in 2014, who said nothing happened and he didn't move. He was still around thinking that nothing will happen,
Mm.
and he had a car. So that was the only. So I called her. Where are you? I told you this thing is happening, and it was like, okay, where are you? I said, my house is so so place. He came to pick me in the house.
Mm.
That was how we managed to have at least a way of where are we going. How do we even move? Because
Yeah,
if not for his car at that moment, we'll be stopped because there
yeah,
was there was no how to escape. There's no way to get
yeah,
out. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
was that was the first a kind of lead we had, that okay, fine, let's get into car and start going towards the area where the war is not serious.
Mm.
That's towards Lviv, Uzgorod, and towards Slovakia and all of that. So
Yeah.
that was how we started.
Wow. So at that time, you woke up early in the morning with this blast. I want to go back to it again. Then you said there was a lot of confusion. Okay. Then you said, okay, let me go and see what is going on with your phone.
Yeah.
You kind of recording. But I want to ask you because we are people of faith. Such type of confusion, and you can agree or disagree. At that time, you don't even remember that. Okay, maybe I should pray, right? You just right.
No, no, no. At that time, prayer was the least I was thinking about.
Yeah.
To be honest, prayer
Yeah.
was the least thing I could even think about.
Yeah.
So the human in me
Mm,
was looking for, what's the way I should get out of this place?
mm,
What's the way to get out of this place? You know,
mm,
yes, like you said, for people of faith, we sometimes neglect the real thing, the real,
mm,
which is, although before then, I've been praying to God to help. It's not like I've not praying that, okay, God, I don't know what's going to happen.
mm.
As a Christian, I've always been, but as at that time, we had that, but it was a different thing entirely. My
Yeah.
mind, even I don't even remember that, okay, let's go back to God,
Yeah.
ask God for direction.
Yeah. No, but actually you are human because even many people who may say I would have just gone to pray. I don't think they would have done that because you hear a bomb blast, you know, and I guess you didn't shook, right? You know, and it was so loud, so you are trying, not just in confusion, you're trying to also find a place to escape. So confusion is really something that I think confusion is something that need to we need to. I mean, you don't get prepared for such things.
Yeah.
No one gets prepared, and this is something that's very interesting because in that state of confusion, of course, God is not a God of confusion.
Yeah.
And even though if you had maybe prayed, and I'm not berating you, maybe you would have had some type of inner peace. But God is not a God of confusion in the sense that He would have given you some peace. Yet, the prayers you've been offering,
Mhm.
led you to like, okay, what do we do? Look, I make some calls, and I get a friend, because I don't think that the prayers you're offering in the past were not being answered even at the moment you were feeling the confusion. And so I think that the good thing about prayer is that it speaks into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah? It speaks into the future. But I wanted to ask you, what did you have to leave behind? Did you leave your passport? Did you leave your bag? Did you leave anything? What did you have to leave behind at this time?
At that point, we had a little car that will contain as many people as possible. So there was no space for luggage. What we needed to take is just your passports and maybe just a handbag. Of course, it was within the winter time and it was cold. So I needed to double up very well because we're going to be on the road for a very long time. So I didn't take anything. I mean, my house key, I actually came to Germany with my house key, the gates, card, that used to access your flat. Everything was I came with because I was thinking that this is just a temporal thing as well. Maybe we're just gonna wait for a little while, everything will die down, and then we'll go back to our homes. I didn't take nothing, and my pot, my house, everything was there intact, and I came out.
So you took so you just took a passport, you
Yeah.
took a bag and you doubled up, because it was winter. And that means you left equipment, clothes, some valuables.
Everything, 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 everything in my house that makes up.
How was that like? How was that like? Did you feel empty?
There's no way to feel empty in that situation, brother. The thing is, you want to be alive. In fact,
Okay.
you just want to be alive.
Yeah.
Nothing in that room could ever, make me stay back at the moment because what I wanted to do is to leave because I know one who has life could have still
Mm.
acquire things again. I just wanted to get out of the war zone.
Mhm.
I was not interested in anything, the material things I've had in my house. As a matter of fact, I like a lot of clothes. So I brought a lot of clothes from Nigeria, my natives and everything, the beautiful shoes that I have. None of those things mattered at that point. None of those
Wow.
things mattered at that point. Nothing. The only thing that matters is that I can still breathe, that I can still have my life, and I can have a safe place where I can have a refuge. At that water. That's the only thing I needed.
My brother Henry. As you're speaking about this, I'm having chill wind. So, but I'm having this chills running down my spine because when the rubber hits the road, when everything is said and done, it's actually life. Not just life, but abundant life that matters.
Yes,
So
yes.
you spoke about the shoes, the natives, and everybody that Nigerians have beautiful clothes. Those things did not matter. What mattered for you was you needed to stay alive. And in the long run, what matters for all of us is of course, our eternal life. But then you have also spoken about the fact that when Jesus says we should lay up our treasures in heaven, right? Because it's going to stay longer, right?
Yes. Yes.
So no matter what is here on earth, those things are perishable things. Because you're like material things, this does not matter at the moment. You just needed to enter that car and get going. So tell me, you started making your trip to Germany.
Yeah.
Did you already know that it was? Did you all guys already know you guys were coming to Germany?
Okay. What happened is we went to Slovakia, and
Mm-hmm.
my church was very supportive because
Mm-hmm.
actually my church didn't want me to leave, but the Nigeria in me told me that, guy, you need to leave or you need to get out now. They provided a place and like, okay, Henry, let's go to a place and save and all of that. But I said no, let me just get out first, to another country and be safe. Maybe later we can come back. So, uh, we're still in communication because we had our Viber group and we're church group. We're still communicating, so they were sharing numbers for Adra in different countries. So they sent me the Adra number in Slovakia, which I called. The Adra came and picked us up with my friends as well. So they gave us a place. We stayed for a couple of days.
Mm.
Adra was helpful. So while I was there, my passport was about to expire. Just
Mm.
talk. how I came to Germany. Yes, my passport was about to expire on March 3rd, on March 2nd or thereabouts, because I think we left 29, February 29 or thereabouts.
Mm.
So while I was looking for a way to renew my passport, I contacted people in Austria, Netherlands, Germany, and the only place that I could do my passport that was available was Berlin.
Wow.
And my passport was to expire on March 5th, and I just had, a few more days.
Mm.
So what I did was, after the calls, after the contact, they said there's no paper in Austria. Netherlands was to take longer time, and Berlin was available. So I just searched Berlin, here we are. So I picked the train tickets, and that was how I landed in Berlin. Good
Okay.
enough.
So yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So good enough. I have my church member who was in Nigeria with me, who lived also in Berlin. So I just contacted her and say, "Hey, sister, here I am. I'm in Berlin. How do I see you?" She sent me the address, and the Uber that I took from the Berlin Central Station took me straight to her house. And from her house, the next day, I went to do my passports. And the Nigerian embassy was so good, and they gave us passport the same day, without waiting. They just issued, because they know the situation that we were. So
Mm.
they issued me my passports instantly. And then again, luckily for me, I had also an uncle who had some contacts here, and they spoke to some people, and they provided accommodation for where I could stay. And
Mm.
that's how I find myself in Germany.
Yeah. So you took a car
Mhm.
to Slovakia, and from Slovakia you took a train to straight to Berlin.
Yeah, no, we took car from Kiev. We drove
Mm-hmm.
to Uzgorod. Uzgorod is the boundary between Slovakia and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Then we crossed into Slovakia and took bus to the settlement area. There are places where they were, the city.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we could not drive outside Ukraine, but we walked out of the border. Then
Yeah.
bus they provide the government from Slovakia provided a bus that takes people into the city.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was how we contacted Adra. They came to pick us up from
Yeah.
the. Uh,
Yeah. No, the reason I'm asking is you took that ride,
Mhm.
you drove. Who
Yeah,
was driving? You or your friend? Or you were interchanging?
we were interchanging, but I did most driving because my friend doesn't like to drive most times. So I did the driving, and yes, this is even another testimony, because
Mm.
we would have lost our life right on that road,
Wow.
because it was a long journey for us, because on our way from Kiev to Uzgorod, it's a long distance. I mean, it's
Mm.
not a joke.
Like, how many hours? How many hours?
It's more than 7 hours or 8 hours drive.
Wow, that's a long one.
And that's not even the case. The thing is that we drove to Uzgorod, and at a point, he didn't have all certain documents to pass. So we had to go to Lviv, went back to another, almost another 7, 8 hours to Lviv. And I was the one driving most times. There were times we drove day and night. There were times when almost slept off on the steering, and they were all sleeping at the back, and he was sleeping. I was the only one awake on the steering, and I slept off and opened my eyes, and like, wow, God, several times would have all gone, but God kept us, and in
Wow.
that lonely road in the middle of the night, there were
Mm.
places you have to stop and take some rest. And
Mm.
it was God, leading. Oh, I must tell you, I must confess that God was really there with us. God was there with us.
Yeah. The Bible says God covers us just like a hen covers her chicks, protects us, even in times of trouble, he is our refuge. So I can just imagine that the angels were just going in front of, just like the children of Israel who had to run away anyways from Egypt. The angel was going in front, and then also an angel behind, the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. This is just fascinating. If you had an accident, you wouldn't be telling the story right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we thank God for your life. I'm interested in, you mentioned the church, you mentioned Adra. By the way, those of you who are listening, Adra means Adventist Development and Relief Agency. So it's a relief agency that's kind of comes in during disaster, wars, social welfare, and all whatnot. And so your church in Ukraine helped you to get a contact to ADRA in Slovakia, and ADRA helped you. And then your church how did the church in Berlin help you? Because you had mentioned that you had someone who was in your church before, and then this person had to kind of keep you. And then yeah, how did the church help? What was the role of the church at this time, and what is your, how would I put it, your without the church, how would things have been?
Well, I'm a very special child. I'll put it that way. So I
Yes.
had a lot of support and luck with people. The church, yes, Adra was also connected. My church in Ukraine was also connecting. We had a church member in Ukraine who studied in Germany and who was once a member of the church as well. So she also made contacts with the church in Berlin and contacted the pastor. I don't know. Then I didn't know who the pastor was and another sister, So they called me, but before then, I've already gotten a place to stay temporarily. Yes, and so I spoke with the pastor, then spoke with the sister. Of course, that's me who is always a church person. So first thing I was looking for where to go to church.
Yeah.
So finally, then I think church was not holding very regularly or so or something. But then I finally came to church, and the church
Mm.
was supportive as well. Met with the pastor. That was COVID time.
Yeah.
People were not so associating very well, but the church was supportive. They also gave us some little money to support us, all of us who came from. And I was not the only one affected, actually. There were other people
Yeah. Yeah.
that we know each other from because the student Adventist Student Association in Ukraine, so we know it ourselves. So the
Mm.
supportive giving us help where they could. But for me as a person, I was just lucky to have a lot of good people around, even Germans, who offered to help me in several ways to support, me and to be able to feel very comfortable here, despite
Mm.
the situation, despite the trauma of.
Mm.
So I was very lucky. And the church community, yes, of course, finally got involved with the church and forgot everything. The moment I got involved with the church, I forgot everything about the.
Wow, wow. That is, yeah, yeah, yeah. But that is profound because it's like you said it. You came home, and when whatever is going on outside, it's just can fizzle away because you're in a safe space. It's like you're running into the arms of your mom, right? Because this is a place where you felt safe. That is very, very important, especially so many immigrants who have been connected to the church, and then later on they'll say, well, the church did this and that, and they complain about the church. What would you say to those people who will be like, actually, because I know that there's some people who you came with who just benefited from the church and still left. Well, the church has helped, they have done their part. What would you say to those people? Like, isn't the church really a safe space?
Yeah, it should be a safe space. But the point is, as individuals, we have different ways or different perspectives about
Yeah,
life. For
yeah.
me, getting involved with the church, if you notice, I was everywhere, doing everything that I could at me because that's what I love doing. So I found the church in fact, the right place to be, made it all looks very simple and easy that nothing happened
Mm,
because I was engaged. I was engaged with church activities, program of the
mm,
church, and so I didn't have the time to come and start, you know, thinking about what has happened to me in the past. There was no point for that. Yeah, I know it could have one or two problems with the individual, but for me, the church, the body, and being involved with church activities and the programs of the church was what gave me that freedom
yeah.
from the burden of thinking about, oh, this has happened to me, this is my story, and all. So I just completely got involved. And so for anybody, I would advise, get involved with the church things, get involved in activities of the church, do what you love doing, and gradually the experience will gradually fade away, and you'll be okay again. That's for me what I could say.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You were a refugee. You
Mhm.
came down to Germany as a refugee.
Yeah.
Having a refugee status actually is something that a lot of expats who move to Germany do not want. Of course, people move and then they have the refugee status. They are aware of this, under the government. But you're a refugee for almost a year, right? How long was it? Or even longer than a year?
Nah, maybe. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and what was this season like for you emotionally, spiritually, and even practically? What was it like for you? Or would you also say, well, you forgot that you were a refugee because you were with the church,
That's the truth.
Yeah.
I didn't see myself as a refugee because I wasn't getting handouts. I wasn't going for handouts. I mean, to be able to feel like you're a refugee, you need accommodation where the government provided for you, and they're giving you monthly stipends, and all of that. Probably you have some vouchers to go and take some things. I didn't get any of that. Okay, so I came and I saw the situation, and I wanted a different thing altogether. So I didn't go for all that handout. So I didn't get benefits. I didn't get any of those.
But does it also kind of the type of personality you have, that you're an enterprising, creative person who would, like a lion, look for ways to really survive?
Pastor, you know what I said when you wake up in the morning and you're sleeping on your dream? The dream will be sleeping, but when you wake up and you start chasing the dream, the dreams will start happening. So from day one, I wanted to chase my dream. I wasn't ready to, get a handout from government or from. So I started looking for job. I started looking for, what do I do? You understand? How can I,
Yeah.
how can I work and make money and not collect government's, benefit? It's
Like,
it's not even going to be enough for me because my needs are so much. Where I'm coming from, the expectation is so high,
yes, yes,
so
yes.
that I can't afford to fail. You understand? So this is why I started looking for how do I, get integrated? How do I become a better person? And how do I change my status? What they gave to me, even though it's temporal, refugee status, but how do I change it instantly? And that led me to looking for where to apply for my master's immediately. So I applied for my master's immediately.
Mm.
So I didn't have to wait.
You're just something else. And this was also the time you wanted to get married. You
Of
uh,
course. Of
to
course.
officially seal the traditional marriage that you had done. And
Yes.
so it's had to, of course, cost money
Mhm.
and time and planning and all those things. And you achieved. How did you do it, my brother? I mean, give us some tips.
Well, I don't know how I did it. I'll be honest to you, but I know God. If you set out with God, everything that seems that looks so difficult becomes so simple.
Mm,
I know how difficult it is to do a wedding in Germany. A lot of people tells me, "Oh, bro, you did a wedding in Germany and you pulled that stunt." I say, "Yes, I did it." Like you have a lot of money. I say, "Madam, I may not have a lot of money, but I did it." So the thing is, let me go back a little bit to my life. I didn't have it all rosy, but I went to private school.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so going to private school in Nigeria, um, it's like you people are very rich, even though not all rich people go to private school in Nigeria. Some are really poor, but we're not poor as poor. But for me as a person, I was rich, and so I went into private school, and because I told myself that I can't settle for less.
mm,
Though resources may be limited, but that will not stop me from going for the best of the best.
mm,
And
mm,
so that pushed me to go to private school. It was not easy. It was difficult.
mm,
So I went in and struggled and I completed it. Coming back here, I also told myself that I want the best for myself. Okay. And if I want the best for myself, the best thing I can do is to keep doing what I need to do. So I got a job. Yeah.
mm,
Got a job. And because I wasn't paying rent at that period, so what I was doing was to pay my school fees because I couldn't wait to get admitted into government schools where I don't have to pay fees. So because I needed to change my status, I was not comfortable saying you're a refugee or something because since there was an opportunity for me to change my status, so why would I want to remain in that status? So I quickly went. So I was paying my my school fees, and I was also lucky again. I have a lot of supports, a lot of supports. And that was it. So we started the planning, and I saw the budget, and I said it's something I can do. Then I just set the dates, and that was it. The wedding was done.
You know, um, right now you're married.
Yes.
You're no longer a refugee. You have a job. You have a master's.
Mhm.
And this is in the kind of a space of, so you came to Germany, say in March, right? You came to Germany in March. So this is in a space 2022, right? So this is in a space of about 3 years. You know, would you say you've made it in Germany?
No, no, not yet. Not yet. I've not made it, but very soon I'll make it.
Another question: do you think that because you talked about dream? Is there something like a German European dream where people like, okay, there's an American dream, you chase the American dream. Is there something like a German or European dream? You've lived in Germany, you've lived in Ukraine, and a little bit in Slovakia for some days. Is there something like that? And can you explain it to us?
Yeah. For me, the German dream, the German European dream is quite different from the American dream. The American dream seems to be like a lot of money, wealth, but
Yes.
but the German dream, it's a different thing. Let me put this out here now. It's a bit of peace of mind,
Yes.
level of stable life with some
Yeah.
level of ability for freedom to move around, travel the world without restriction. I mean, anybody who stays here in Germany might have the tendency or the opportunity to work towards having a German passport. And that's what I call the German dream. Because once you have that, you have some high level of stability in life. I mean, you may not stay in Germany, okay, you may just live in another country, but it looks like your future is secured. So I'll call it the German dream.
Mm.
Money,
Wow.
not wealth, not some kind of, build houses, build hotels. And no, that's not what the German dream gives you the opportunity to be stable, to be at a level where you're okay, you're comfortable, you're not so much money, like because they restrict you from, hours you work, but
Mhm.
enough to be comfortable, pay your taxes. Do you understand? Have a stable life, travel around the world when you want to travel. I mean, what more do you want? Why do you want
Yeah.
to have money in the world? And for what reason? I see them in a very different perspective. You need to just be simple,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
the ability to be able to have what you want when you want it. That's
Mhm.
okay. That's okay. That's what the German dream.
Thank you. Thank you for actually articulating that. Actually, I've been thinking about what it would mean to have a German dream, or what is really the German dream, what it actually means. And you articulated this in just a few words. My last question to you, there's one more other question, but it's just basically attached to this German dream thing. So while achieving this German dream, is there a possibility to derail from, or is it easy to derail from God while achieving this German dream, chasing this German dream, this peace of mind? Or would you think that it's easier to even be with God while chasing this? And how would you advise? Because you are in this right now, so how would you advise us in chasing this German dream, or chasing some type of dream, to attach God, or not to attach God, to make God the main dream, while the rest are just like attached purposes?
Okay. Yes, there is possibility. In fact, very high chance of getting derailed in the process of
Mm.
in this dream. Okay. And the honest truth is that it comes in a very subtle way that
Yeah.
you may not know.
Hmm.
Give you an instance. I don't know if this is right on social media, on the YouTube channel, but the thing is that people do a lot of things to get this, freedom, which is like documents.
Yeah.
I had advices when I was, about to give birth. My people were like, "You can do this, you can do that." I don't want to, say things on. But what I'm saying is, there is high chance of getting derailed. Okay, one should be very careful when chasing that dream, because that's the European dream everybody wants. Once you have a German passport, it looks like you're settled for life. So, but what I would say is, what I tell people when I hear some such things is, I tell them that, look, my citizenship is for heaven. That's what I'm.
Amen.
That's what I'm interested in, and that's what I pursue. And that's why I'm not interested in the worldly citizenship, irrespective of US, Canada, or whatever. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in God and heavenly citizenship. Okay, so
Mm.
if you can give me a passport that will not allow me to die, then I can chase for it. If I die tomorrow, which nobody knows when anybody will die, of what is it? So we be careful. This is a very strong, and subtle, influence that has eaten up even into the church.
Yes.
We tend to chase this dream, stepping on every stool and doing anything just to get it.
Mm.
That they are also material things.
Mm.
They're also temporal. They're never gonna last. So the best way is to be in the Lord. And if God blesses you and provides it for you while you're here, while you have your time here, glory be to God. But if He does not come, all glory be to Him. We are to heaven, and that's where my passport will be.
Amen. Amen. That is a very nice way to come to a conclusion. But I wanted to just give you one more opportunity or one more word to say. What would you tell people who have gone through or who are going or suffering some kind of thing? Whether it is loss of job or loss of status, loss of parents. My brother, you have almost seen everything, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So loss of place, loss of home, and what will you tell them? Because you are the right person to tell them this. What would you tell them as they are going through this right now?
I'm going to use this to illustrate it. A few months ago, right here on my balcony, I'm looking at the green and flourished trees, beautifully looking. But a few weeks ago, it was all empty and dry.
Hmm.
I sit here and walk every day, and
Hmm.
this thing, I could see the other side of the road very well. It was empty as at November, December, January. It was all dry trees, and there was no single leaf there. It was looking like it was all gone.
Hmm.
But just few weeks ago, I sat here again, and the leaves were already coming back.
Hmm.
The flowers are blossoming,
Hmm.
and the leaves now is fully green and flourished. So if
Hmm.
you're going through anything in life, just remember that once at some point you had all green leaves on you,
Hmm. Hmm.
flourishing leaves on you, and you were all doing well, beautifully looking, everything was good, healthy. There was no problem. But then know that it was also the time and season.
Hmm.
And know that very soon that time and season of dryness will also go away and you
Amen.
blossom again.
Amen.
And also go back to what EGY says, we have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and his teachings in our past histories. I
Hmm.
don't forget an experience I had. I saw something in my university days. I talked about how difficult it was to go to private school, but that was in my 300 level first semester. I was unable to pay my fees. So
Hmm.
that's a faith-based institution too. You understand? If you don't pay your fees, you may not be able to write exam, but you need a guarantor or somebody to stand for you so you can. So I didn't have anyone. And to read was difficult. So I started fasting and praying. I've said this testimony over and over again, and I'll keep saying it. Now I had a meal ticket, lunch and supper. So because I didn't want to be tempted because I was fasting, I took away all the lunch within that week for one
Hmm.
whole, and I took out I threw out the lunch and I dashed it out to people to please use and eat. So I don't be tempted to go to the cafeteria and eat. I was going to the chapel every day after my class. If I had class, I think that week exam was approaching, so there was not much classes to go and pray and read. It was difficult to read because my mind was like, I'm not going to write this exam. I know what the
Hmm. Hmm.
private institution is in Nigeria. I'm not going to write this exam. And so why are you reading? I continued to read and I struggled. And by special grace of God, I concluded that fasting and I left everything to God.
Hmm.
That was Friday. I went to church on Saturday. Monday, I didn't have any paper on Monday. My paper was on Tuesday. but the exam started on Monday. By default, everybody had collected their clearance by Friday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People started writing exams, so there was no point anybody going to the bursary. Like there was no necessary, it was not necessary. But one way or the other, that's Monday afternoon. I came out to eat, and somebody saw me. I was like, "Hey, bro, I saw your clearance paper at the bursary. You didn't take it.
Wow.
What happened?" I said,
Wow.
"Yes, you saw my clearance paper?" Yes, I said yes. I went straight to the bursary and at the window, because you don't go inside, it's from the
Yes.
window. I just knocked and like what the man said, "What do you want?" I said, "My clearance." And he looked at her, "What's your name?" And looked, "Why haven't you collected your clearance? Take. It was stamped.
Wow.
It was stamped.
Wow.
It was stamped. There was no point to go check my account to see if I
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
stamped because he would have stamped everything down.
Yes.
Like you haven't collected it, you're not serious. Take your clearance." And I didn't look back. I went straight and I appreciated God. I wrote 300 level first semester exam.
Wow.
And then after I graduated, after I went home on holiday, I went to see Dr. Dejadeleke, who now that's testimony. I went to see him and he came out in his office, 100 Kudira Tabiola way there. And he saw me and I said, "What do you want?" I said, "School fees." He said, "You again? What is oh yeah, go and meet Taiwo." I went to meet Taiwo and said you can't do anything. There's no more scholarship. I said, "Okay, fine. I'll wait." I kept waiting. The man came out again. He saw me again. So what are you still doing here? I said, "I'm still waiting. I've not gotten any yet." So he said, "Okay, meet this person, Autobahn." I went to meet Otto. And Autobahn said, "I can't do anything. It's the only chairman that can do something." I keep waiting until it was almost 12 midnight or past midnight. I went down to the staircase and when they thought, because I needed to leave, I went down to the staircase where he will pass when going. I stood there until almost 1 a.m. He came with his friends and they were about leaving. He came and said, "This boy, you're still here." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What's your problem?" I said, "I have not been able to pay my fees and I don't want to drop out of school." He said, "Come back tomorrow, come and take later. Nobody should disturb you until you graduate."
Wow.
And
Wow.
that
Praise
was
God.
and that was how I graduated and nobody disturbed me. Except I have forgotten what God did for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is even just one small part of it. What about when I went back before I got back into school? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I got into school. So my life is a full of God and
Mm-hmm.
faith because I've always that God will do it. So
Mm-hmm.
if anybody is going through difficult times, maybe it looks as if I've developed some strong for things because not because I've developed some stuff, but because I understood who my God is and what
Yes.
He has done for me. When people see me here, they think it's you just came and you're doing a whole lot of things. No, it's not me. It's because I believe in He who can do it, who is able to do it.
Amen.
Who is me? I can't do anything. I'm not even one of the smartest guys on earth or anywhere, okay? But when you align with God and you put your trust in God and you put God first in whatever you're doing, you see Him work. It might be difficult. It might be difficult, especially when you're not in conformity with the world. Very difficult. But hang in there. My advice is hang in there. God will finally take you to where you would be, and people will look not at you, but up to you. Thank you so
Amen.
much.
Amen. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible time. Thank you so much for sharing
Thanks so
and
much.
for opening. There are times when I'm like, it's not easy to also open up, but you have this powerful stories. You have this powerful testimony that I believe anyone listening would be encouraged. And let that testimony continue to encourage you yourself because you have said it is you've gone through a lot that you cannot just like forget how God has led you in the past. That's I'm praying to the Lord that we also learn from you. And for me, it has been a privilege to listen to the stories. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you. And dear friends, that was it on Faith Abroad. We have come to the end of the story from our dear brother Henry. If you have been touched by any of what has been said, whatever section it is, you can share, you can like, you can also leave a comment. If you're going through anything and you need some prayer, some encouragement, please drop a comment and we'll connect you maybe to Henry, or you can get connected to myself. Until next time, it is Pastor Chigemezi with Faith Abroad. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye.